Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Political Pipe. And the reason I started the video with the mask on is because, well, in my state of Nevada, CDC says masks can now be optional, but our governor, King Sissy Sack, says they're not. He says we still have to wear them. Okay, so anyway, today we're going to be discussing Christianity, a history of atrocities. Okay, we're going to discuss all the atrocities committed by the Christian church, starting in 1095 AD, all the way up to 1492, days of Christopher Columbus. So, first thing we're discussing is the Christian Crusades. It was led by the Latin Church during the medieval times, also known as the Dark Ages. It went worldwide. Okay? The Christian church used children, get this, children in their armies because children were innocent and therefore could slaughter people without offending God, or so they say. The powers that be, they didn't like other religions. They didn't like us being a diverse world with many religions. So what they did is they went out and literally started slaughtering everyone, okay, for non-conversion. If you didn't convert to the Christian church, you would get slaughtered. Gee, where have I heard that in Muslim or modern times? Sorry, I gave it away. That's right, Islam. If you don't believe in Islam in their region, you get slaughtered. Gee, that makes Christianity kind of coincide and look just like Islam. So anyway, these atrocities went on till 1492, all the way up to Columbus discovering the New World, as they call it. Now let's look in detail about the year 1486, when two popes, Jacob Spencer and Heinrich Kramer, published a book called the Malleus Maleficarum, also known as the Hammer of the Witches or the Witch's Hammer. And it was basically an instruction manual on how to capture, interrogate, torture, and ultimately execute witches. But their definition of a witch was anybody who didn't conform to the Latin Christian Church again, the Catholic Church. That was their definition of a witch. Anyone who didn't conform. Okay? So, nonconformity is a sin. Again. And this led to what happened in Europe, known as the burning times. That's where people were actually burned at the stake. But it wasn't just for witchcraft. If you were a scholar who studied math, you were put to death as a heretic. If you were a scholar who studied science, you were put to death as a heretic. If you were a scholar that studied anything other than the canon Bible, you were put to death as a heretic. But it led to the burning times, and it carried on into the New World. When pilgrims came over here, Puritans, they brought it with them into 1692. 1691 to 1692. Went on for about 7 months. In Salem Village, Massachusetts, was what was known as the Salem Witch Trials. Okay? Innocent people were killed for being witches. Some people were accused of witchery so that the neighbors who accused them could buy up their forfeited land. Because during those times, if you confessed to being a witch, you were whipped and then put in jail for a while. But if you failed to confess, if you were a good, stern Christian who knew you weren't a witch, or any kind of good, stern person, any religion, who knew they were not a witch, and you refused to confess, you were instantly executed. And they believed that a lot of this was due to erg of rye, which is a mold that gets onto the rye, okay? And then they bake that mold into the bread, and it causes powerful hallucinations, kind of like taking mescaline, mushrooms, and acid all at once. We're talking you be tripping balls. And that's what led to a lot of people claiming they saw spirits or they saw their neighbor send out their familiar spirit to attack them. Okay? They were tripping balls on erg of rye, which is better than the best purple haze Jimi Hendrix ever took. And so continuing on, now it's time for open discussion. Okay? As of today, I mean, every time something new happens in this world, something that everybody doesn't understand, the church protests it. The church protested us using the internet. The church protested medical schools. The church protested science studies. The church protested math studies, all as heresy. And now they're still doing it. I mean, all the way up to the 1980s. The wife of former Vice President Al Gore, Tipper Gore, she led a crusade against all secular music and basically led to what was known in the 80s as the Satanic Panic, where people were freaking out and seeing Satanism in all kinds of music, which is what led to the 90s to Marilyn Manson being blamed for Columbine. And it's still going on today. Today, the Christian church is still leading with atrocities. Every time you see, okay, during a gay pride parade or something, there'll be 1,000 Christians out there waving a sign that says God hates gays. When we in Reno got that transgender story hour at our library, which is basically our drag queen story hour, which is basically a drag queen reading the kids a children's story. I see nothing wrong with it. But when we tried to take our kids to it, we were stopped because a church out there in Reno had fucking literally formed a line that blocked the entrance, holding a sign that says, God hates drag queens, God hates gays, God hates transgenders. What the fuck is with all the hate? I'm sorry, but I think this world would do much better had the Christian religion never existed. Anyway, that's my take on it for now. Mull it over for yourself. Drop me a like, share, and subscribe. Leave me a comment down there in the comment section. As always, you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. Peace out, Patriots.